You know, there are just some books where I finish them and I think, that was incredible, but man, it was weird. And yesterday I finished one just like that. I finished The Drawing of the Three, the second book in the Dark Tower by Stephen King, and it was absolutely wild. From the first page, from front to back, this was a fever dream, acid trip, multi-dimensional, like crazy coked up adventure, and I couldn't be happier with everything I just said. This book is like, it's just nuts. And honestly, I wish I had started The Dark Tower sooner, because this is just one of those series where I think I'm just going to vibe with it. So, obviously, you can tell I'm kind of excited about this one. But what makes it good? Well, if you like The Gunslinger and you like what I said about The Gunslinger, everything about The Gunslinger that makes it a good book is better here. The characters are better. I think the prose is more refined. I think the world building is more interesting. I think that the action is better told. And I think Stephen King, somehow, even though I thought we were at max crazy dial with The Gunslinger, I thought we were already at 12, he manages to crank the crazy dial from like 12 to like 25 in this book. And I couldn't be happier with this, because I will be honest, based on the name, The Drawing of the Three, and the three doors, and the blurb on the back, I had a certain expectation, right? And my expectation was this. I thought that Roland would have to go on kind of a crazy multi-world adventure where he, hunts down maybe, the man in black across three different planets or three different times, and at the end that there would be this kind of uh standoff, like Mexican standoff between three characters with guns. I thought it was going to be a shootout. I genuinely thought, just kind of based on the vibe of the first book and the name of the second book, and even kind of what I read on the back, that it was going to be like a weird acid trip shootout adventure. And while it was some of that to some degree, it also subverted my expectation in so many ways. If you think, after reading The Gunslinger, hey, that was like a really crazy story, and I'm not really sure how Stephen King came up with that at all, because that was wild, you better just buckle in. Because if you thought The Gunslinger was wild, oh, my sweet summer child, you know nothing. You know nothing. You don't know how wild this story can get. And from what I've been told, it somehow gets even more wild from this one. I just don't know how that's possible. Because, and this is not even spoiling anything, this dude, Roland, jumps into other worlds and possesses people's bodies and experiences their life to some degree or another. And like the way that this book opens up with the prologue, it's just like it's so crazy that Stephen King could come up with these concepts. Like I just want to get inside this man's mind for half a second, because how do you think of this stuff? How do you think of what occurs in this book? I don't know how it's possible. And how these characters that Roland kind of recruits along his adventure come together, and how their story plays out, and what they're dealing with is, you would think that they would be just like these like crazy, out of this world, just like can't even conceive of them kind of characters. Maybe some like Karsa Orlong from Malazan, if you've read it, kind of characters where it's like totally alien, totally different set of cultural beliefs and values. And yet Stephen King manages to somehow, in this weird, crazy acid trip adventure, write a grounded, like, concepts of like these characters who are dealing with things where you wouldn't expect him to dive into these subjects in the way that he does, and yet when he does it, it's completely believable. So like for example, one of the characters is addicted to heroin, and like you kind of see how this character and Roland deal with the fact that he was formerly addicted to heroin and how he kind of overcomes it throughout this story. And I'm not going to pretend that it's like the most realistic depiction of like withdrawal or drug abuse or anything like that, but Stephen King has this ability to write characters and write people in conflict with one another and working alongside one another that just stuns you, because I don't know what it is about this man and the way he writes, but to me I find that I am instantly attached to the characters that he writes. And this has been a thing since the first book I read by him, Salem's Lot. You know what I mean? Like, Salem's Lot was kind of the testing ground for his ability to write characters, and that's one of his earliest works. You know what I mean? Like, but he still managed to, in that book, make me care about the town of Jerusalem's Lot. And he's done it again and again. He did it in It. He did it in The Shining. He did it in The Stand. He started doing it in The Gunslinger. And he just does it again. He just keeps doing it, where you read these characters and you read these stories and you can't help but be captivated by everything that encompasses it. Because I could talk about how absolutely nuts the world building in this is, or how crazy of a concept it is to write this story that is essentially at the center of your entire work as an author. The Dark Tower connects everything else that Stephen King has ever written. It is at the very epicenter of who he is as an author. It is his essence. It's his magnum opus. I could talk about how crazy that is and how it all connects and how awesome that is, and maybe I will in a future video. But what I find so stunning is not the fact that he does something like that, because that's very much Stephen King. What I find so stunning is that he does that, and then he writes characters where you can't help but fall in love with them, despite them being people who you don't necessarily want to fall in love with. Roland is the core character of what I mean by this. This guy is, I would say, a very morally gray protagonist. If I would even say, to some extent, he's a bad guy, because he is willing to sacrifice the people around him in search for the Dark Tower, in search of fulfilling his destiny, his ka. And yet, you can't help but fall in love with this guy because, yeah, he's got this macho bravado where, you think he doesn't care about anyone, and he's very tough, and he's the last gunslinger, and he's so cool. He radiates coolness. And yet, there's this underneath layer where he realizes the kind of man he is, and he hates it. And he does that with all of these characters. You know what I mean? Like, he just makes you either instantly like or instantly hate a character. He can just write so well, and it just blows me away. Like, there's just so much to love in the drawing of the three. I really love the two other characters, the two other protagonists that are introduced this. They're crazy. They're nuts. I like Susanna, or she's known as a dead in this one, and I think his name's Henry. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. But like the way that they're introduced and the story that is told with them throughout this, and how it all just kind of comes to a head at the end. I don't know. Like, it's just lovely, and I am, if you can't tell, immensely enjoying my reading so far. I listened to the audiobook, which is done by Frank Mueller. Phenomenal performance, by the way. Just want to put that out there. Like, if you're an audiobook person like I am, listen to it. It's so well delivered. It is so, chef's kiss. It's delivered exactly how you think this book should be delivered. It takes a little bit getting used to if you read the first one, and it's done by George Gadile, but it's so well done. But I mean, like, just this book is just good. You know what I mean? Like, you ever just read a book and you're just like, yeah, that was just great. Like, I just enjoyed it. That's this. I mean, like, just really, really fun. Just like it's so fun. Like, and it drips with atmosphere, and there's just this feeling of, like, it feels like King wastes no time here, in my opinion. Like, every page, every chapter, every sentence, every word made me want to read the next. I mean, I burned through this in 2 days, and I probably would have done it faster had I been able to. I mean, it was a roller coaster from front to start, or from front to back, and I can't, I legitimately cannot wait until I read the next one. I'm ecstatic to read the rest of this series. I don't think I have time for any other series right now. I really don't. That is how much I'm enjoying this. Like everything else I try and read in between, it's not bad, but The Dark Tower it's got me hooked. It's got me completely and utterly hooked. So, if the things that I have said interest you, if you think, based on my Gunslinger review or on this, that this is a series you might want to check out, I implore you to do it. This is not necessarily a series for everyone. It's got it's crazy. It's got a ton of violence. It's very trippy. It is weird. It's so weird. It's not like any traditional fantasy series I've read at all. Nothing comes close to the Dark Tower so far. Not Malazan, nothing. This is almost completely unique. And there are definitely some things in this series where I can tell it would turn off a lot of readers. But I think if you read The Gunslinger and you like it, you're going to be blown away by how much you enjoy this book. Genuinely, I would be shocked if anyone disagreed with that. I mean, this is just a great fantasy book. This is just a great book. There are only a few minute things that really held it back for me. And those minute things, I think moving forward, they won't exist anymore. So I just a fun time, like a genuinely great read. And I can't wait for more. I mean, I am ecstatic to read Wastelands. I'm ecstatic to read Wizard & Glass and Wolves of Calla and Song of Susannah and finally The Dark Tower. I can't wait to see what King does with this, because I am so impressed by what he has managed to do in this book and in the last. It is just unbelievable. It's unbelievably fun. It is completely addicting. The pacing is just incredible. I think every word hits home. I think the way that he just writes and breaks up these chapters, I just love it. Like, front to back, I just love this book. And I can't wait for more. So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I mean, this was just awesome. Genuinely such a good time. And I can't wait to read the rest. I'm excited to see where he can go with this. So again, if it sounds like it might be up your alley, please try it. This is something special in the making, folks. You can just feel it.